I'm live now. I need to log into my this one. If I go here and then click on the correct account and go bango, and then I have to do this. Yes. Okay, just opening my chat. I have to do this every single time I start stream. It won't let me do it before. It's very frustrating. Okay, what are you doing, Firefox? Come on, there we go. Alright. I now have a chat window. So if you want to chat, you can say hi. Nobody says hi, I will cry. Ah, hello! No tears today. Good day, Whiff.
Hi.
I think I'm ready to go. Just thinking, I've got no audio, anything. I'm turning my speakers off because I've got no audio, music or anything playing. I don't want anything to just start playing, but that should be fine. Yeah, I think we're ready to go.
You should be, because you're live.
Yeah, I know. There's post-live setup stuff that is unfortunate that must be done. Okay, Psyduck. This is him. He's a duck, and he does sidekick stuff. And I need to... My nose are quick. There we go. So Psyduck. Fairly simple in most parts. Like, the majority of his shape is quite simple to make. Tails, really easy, just extrude it out and, you know, move the vertices around until it's a slightly conical shape. The arms, pretty standard arms. The hands and the feet are a bit weird because they're 3 points sticking out like that, so it's a little odd, but nothing I can't work around. The beak is probably the hardest part, so we'll spend a bit of time at the start working on that. Not 100% happy with the shape I ended up in the first one, and he does also have a little mouth that is very inconsistent with how it looks in different sources, so I just didn't worry about it, but you absolutely could make him a mouth that sort of... It's definitely the bottom of his beak, but it looks more like a normal human mouth in some of the reference. I'll show you. I'll bring up the reference that I've got. Where are we? PureRef. So I made a reference board using PureRef because I couldn't find particularly good or consistent front and side references. So I just went to Google Images, searched for Psyduck, and got a few different ones. This one's a really good one of his feet. This one's a fairly good side profile. This one shows his tail, his little things on his head, and just what's going on with the mouth. That was a very, like, why does he look like that? And that's how his mouth looks in various places, so it's not its own thing. Just got another one there of him standing around, sort of good one for his little hand there. He's got very wide eyes in this one compared to the rest. So that's a thing to possibly be aware of if you're animating him. Then he can go quite circular-eyed rather than like the ovals that he's got here. And then these two are 3D models from the games. So we've got Psyduck in Pokemon Go, Psyduck in one of the games. It looks like he's T-posing, but I'm not sure. I think that's just his standard pose. And then a fairly high-resolution, quite detailed drawing of a very simple character. So we've got his foot shape again there, sort of another angle of his bill, and his arm as well. Got quite a good look at his arm there, so I'm quite happy with that image. Bring that down here. If you haven't used it before, PureRef is really, really handy for this kind of stuff. Obviously having a front and side sketch makes things so much easier. That you can just reference off them straight away. But when you can't have that, then PureRef, comes to the rescue when we can do this sort of stuff. So I'll have this on my second screen, If you don't have a second screen, then you can resize this window and scroll around in it with middle mouse and stuff, so you can see all the references, and maybe like move it. If we move it sort of up here, where there's stuff that you're not going to use very much when you're just doing modeling, then you can have that out of the way. But I don't need to because I've got a second screen, so I'm going to put it over here. And just make sure it's back to how it was. Beautiful. So we'll move to a blank file to start up Psyduck. Did I save? Control save. I did not. Let's quickly save. Oh, I made a folder for him, but I didn't save him. There we go. We'll call that one save. Beautiful. Okay. So that one's not going anywhere now. So to model Psyduck, I started off with a cube, and I'm doing a Control 2 to get 2 levels of subdivision. We'll quickly go to the Modifier panel here and just apply that subdivision. And then I'm going to duplicate this, move it off to the side. Don't need it right now. Hello. Hi, Domingos. Yes, so we're going to go through the process of actually how to model Psyduck. So what I just was showing off was my practice, I guess. The one that I made before stream, so I know exactly what I'm doing. So yeah, we've got the subdivided cube. And the head shape is fairly simple. It's rounded, it's wide. As you can see in all these different references, it's sort of a squashed ball that's squashed and sort of stretched out a little bit. So we can make that happen quite simply. Scale in the Z, and then we'll scale in the Y. So it looks still quite round from the side, a little bit elongated. Maybe hold down Shift. Get some finer control. And then his head's not quite that wide, so we'll bring it in on the X. Something like that. That's a good start for a Psyduck head. Now we want to make his beak. I'm going to make it as a separate object. I found that worked quite well. And then we will shrink wrap onto the head here so that it fits the shape of the head pretty well. Just checking my reference. I think his head is a little bit taller like that. Yeah, that looks better. Just make sure it's quite round in the side. Beautiful. Okay, so we'll add in a plane, and we want to rotate 90 on the side view, scale it down, bring it forwards, and we'll do Control R to loop cut the middle, delete the vertices on the left, and add in a mirror modifier. Turn on clipping. So we want to look at the shape of the beak on the different references, how it sort of slopes up and then comes up to this little peak and slopes down again. It's quite rounded on the corners. There's not really any images of the underside, so for my previous one I just did a fairly smooth sort of curve similar to the bottom of the head. That should be fine and will work for what we're doing. So we'll work on the top half first. So we know, so the bottom's quite smooth and the top, especially in the middle, is quite a peak. And then we'll extrude this out and we'll actually scale down to where the corners would be. Hi Schmidt. I can't ignore you. Thanks for coming in to chat and saying hello. So the beak comes out most of the way across the side of the head. Not all the way. In this reference it's quite small at where it connects to the head, and these two it's quite wide. This one is small. This one it looks very wide. It's coming up the side past the back of his eye. And this one sort of looks somewhere in the middle, as does this one. So with cartoon characters and stuff, it changes every week as to what the actual design can be, and what they can actually, where they can squash and stretch and sort of make the character more interesting that way. We'll add in another loop here and encourage the roundness to be where we want it. That looks about right. Probably bring this out further. We scale it up a little bit, and then we can bring these out. And probably do 2 more loop cuts here. And so it's still a sort of a C curve, but it's very sort of flattened out as it's coming down the side of the beak. So I want to make sure it's still curving, but it's not just a flat line. I don't want that. So probably bring these down. That looks about right. And I'm actually going to bring this one up and create a sort of a little spot here on the side. Beautiful. Okay. So now we've got a outline of the beak that we're going to use. We'll apply the mirror because I don't want to worry about that being an issue. So go into object mode, apply the mirror, and then we'll go to shrink wrap. Yeah, so as I mentioned at the very start of the stream, you might not have been here for that, I do have a pure ref image board over to the side here. Normally I would have the references like front and side references in Blender, but I couldn't find any that were consistent, so I'm going with an image board and working off all the different designs that are here. Maybe I should leave it, I don't know, let's put it in the top left. And we'll make it small. That way you know what I'm working from. So otherwise people will keep asking. Okay. Oh no. Stay on top. Settings. Is there... See, this is what happens when you change your mind. Main window border. No, I'm not seeing. That's all good. Just give me one moment and I'll get that to stay on top. Right click. Mode. Always on top. There we go. Just a quick Google to get that. Beautiful. So now you can see what I'm working from. So we got the shrink wrap modifier on this beak outline that we've got. So we're going to pick the target of the object here, and we'll just turn the offset up a little bit. And well, that's gone quite far. So let's bring that closer. It's interesting how much different it is to what I did last time. Just project. That's closer to what I wanted. And turn up the offset. About there. I think we've just had a crash. Nope, we're all good. Okay. Blender was just thinking about it. Okay, so we've got the shrink wrap done. So I'm actually going to just apply in object mode. Apply the shrink wrap, as that has now given us a shape that conforms to the head. Not perfectly, but we'll fix that up. I wanted it to be, I wanted the offset to give it a bit, make it easier to see what I'm actually working on, because I can always move back in the Y and then it'll come quite good. So we'll go extrude on the Y. We'll just bring that out. And so the beak of Psyduck does come in a bit, and then it comes out into this big round bulbous part. That's fairly consistent across references. This one is a very weird shape, but that sort of, it comes in and then comes out again is, yeah, that's in all the references, so I'm happy to keep that going. So, the length of his beak is, it's a bit longer than the actual, the whole, I'm pointing to the screen, the whole roundness of the head. So I'm just going to hold my hand up to the screen and get an idea. So I want it to come out another 4 of those. 1, 2, 3, 4. So about to there. And that's where the tip of his beak will be. So I'll scale it in the Y for 0. And bring it back out to that point. About there. Now that obviously is looking wild and not accurate, which is fine, we'll fix that. So we'll do a loop cut. We'll go with 3 loop cuts for now. I'm going to scale the first one in on the X. And then come to the side view, and it does, it comes down and up. So we'll scale in the Z as well. There's not really a perfect amount for what this would be. We'll scale in the Y a little bit. And then we definitely need a loop cut along here. And we will select everything on the end and adjust everything on the end. And I'm going to do some smoothing and just see how that works out. It looks okay. Flatten it out a bit more. And maybe I'll scale in the Z a bit. That's given us fairly decent shape. Now, obviously, the little bump is more to do with the where it connects to the head, and not so much to do with the rest of the beak. So that's a shape that we need to smooth out. So we can scale this out in X, scale Z, and then GZ, and that will start to flatten that out. We could even, just by selecting these polygons here, and just going smooth a whole bunch of times, that will actually do most of the work for us. We might select these ones as well. There we go. And so it's not even a part of the front of the beak anymore. We do need to bring this back out, so we smoothed it back and bring it back up so that it's in line with the top of the beak. And we do want a very rounded shape to the beak. I'm feeling like I've got too many polygons, but I'm not sure where I'd want to take them away from, so I'm not going to. And I don't have the mirror on, so let's delete the left side and chuck on a mirror. Turn on clipping, select that inner edge loop, and I'm just going to move it in the X in one direction and then in the X in the other direction, and that will make any vertices clip into the center line and stay there. Now the front of the beak shouldn't be flat and square like this, so what I'll do, I'll select sort of these front 3 vertices, hit on O to start proportional, and move in the Y, and I'll just bring down the proportional editing a little bit. Just sort of get the nice rounded shape. Now I'm going to need to bring this back again. I've gone shot quite far out. We do still want to, so this needs to be small. Oh, turn off O. So scale that down a little bit in the Z. We'll scale these two up a bit in the Z as well. Maybe bring them up a little bit as well. This side area is looking a bit wacky. So the beak is probably the most complicated shape on the Psyduck. So that's why we're spending a decent amount of time getting the vertices into place. As before in previous streams, I could sculpt this, but I like the process of modelling, especially fairly low detail shapes. So the shape of the beak is it's a complex shape in itself, but there's no like little tiny details on there, so it's fine to model this way. And it helps you to understand sort of the intricacies of the shape as well, which is nice. I might take these vertices, smooth them, scale up a bit, make that whole beak side quite rounded. It is such an odd shape to be making. Okay, now I'm going to select the vertices on the corner here with my proportional editing on. There we go. We're moving the X. And then we'll move these a bit more in the X. And get that more very rounded and bulbous shape that the beak does have. And to me that's looking pretty close. A shade smooth. It's looking a bit too long, so I'm going to bring it back. Oh yeah, I did need to bring it back, didn't I? And I did not do that. That's why. So GY, we'll turn off proportional. Bring that back a bit. And then we'll bring that back a bit. Yeah, that's better. That's more. Bit more Psyduck. And when I do a subsurface, that's looking quite good. Or a subdivision. We'll reinforce these edges here with an edge loop. And then that's looking pretty schmick. So we can do a Control 2 shade smooth on there. And now the beak obviously needs to be brought back. So we'll just bring the object back a bit until it starts to clip through. And we could even be sneaky and have it just almost start clipping. So we get that little bit of geometry sort of coming over before it connects, and that's actually going to look really nice. Now, as before, I haven't really done any detail on the mouth of the beak. Mouth? Not sure what to call it. If I was going to, why don't we do something here? What I would first do is remove these vertices. That shouldn't change what's going on there. It has a little bit. So we'll go here, extrude and scale, and that will actually just scale in the Z quite a bit as well. There we go. Okay. So I didn't want all those edges connecting over the back, because that will make it easier to add in some detail here. So I'm thinking around here, I'm going to use the knife tool. And then connect to the edge on the back. I don't think it's letting me. Here we go. I'll just add in those for now. And then I think I want to come out from this vertex to that one. And then we'll draw in another, almost like an edge loop along the bottom here. And then that's all good. This obviously, that vertex just needs to be dissolved. And we want the edge to be here. So we'll select the polygon that's there, delete only faces, go back to vertex mode, select those two vertices and F to join. And then we can just Alt select and fill that gap, and that's fine. And the only last adjustment to the topology to make sure that it's correct is to line things up, cut from this vertex in the that's just floating in the middle of the polygon and bring it out to there. And so that will still be quads all the way around. And now when I want to add more detail, I can do a Control R, and I've created an edge loop through here that won't interfere with the rest of the model. But if this was all still connected on the back, then it would try to connect around that whole area there. So that's why we did that. We might turn off subdivision in editing mode for now, and we'll just get a slightly rounded shape for the mouth to be. We'll use edge slide to get there. Maybe bring these vertices back. So this might encourage the use of one or two more edge loops around here if you wanted him talking a lot. Not worried about that. I'm just going to add in the sort of detail of a mouth. I'm not going to actually add in a mouth. So that's where his mouth would be. And then if you wanted to, you'd separate the bottom half from the top half and sort of create a, the bottom of a duck's bill, which is quite rigid. That's how I would initially do it. You might want something more cartoony, so you'd do pretty much just a circular hole and then animate it with shape keys or possibly bones as well. But that gives an idea of where his mouth is. And I get that idea from this one, where you could even do it a bit further forwards. You might not necessarily want the connection here, in which case you would where are we? I'm on the wrong side. We'd get the vertices that are causing the detail and just bring them back down. And then see it starts to start a bit further forwards. Possibly bring the next one down as well. And that will make things look a bit smoother. Smooth them out a bit. Yeah. So there's still sort of a hint of what's going on. Maybe smooth here. Bring that back in the Y. Yeah, there we go. That's what I was thinking. Anyway, so let's move on. So we've got a beak, or a bill, because he's a duck. And in the front view, which we don't really have a comparison of, we've kind of got this one. We can see that the eyes sort of sit either side of this lumpy bit. We can see that in all these different ones here. So we'll get the eyes in, and then we'll move to the body. So on the previous one, I added an edge loop here, because that gives us 6 polygons here that we can work with to make an eye, and then we don't have to worry about it being right in the middle. And because of, like, looking at this one especially, the eyes aren't particularly close to the middle, so we want to bring probably, I've just started playing nothing, but we'll edge slide these edges back, edge slide these edges in a bit, and then edge slide this edge loop in a bit more, and that'll give us a bit more separation from the middle. And I don't have a mirror on as well, so we'll make sure we set that up. Okay, and put the mirror first in the modifier stack. So with just that little bit of movement of edges and things, I'll just slide these down a bit, keep the roundedness of the head. We've got the perfect spot here to actually add in the eye. So we'll extrude, and then we'll go to vertice mode, and we'll start to round things out. Not sure edge slide's going to help us in this case, but bring the middle out and the sides in. And we'll bring this sort of back around the head a little bit. I'm not going to worry about making like the corner of an eye or anything like that. He's got very cartoony eyes, so that's not a concern. Might scale out and bring that over here. And then, I mean, we can just go to face mode, extrude in a bit, extrude out again, and then you got, you know, fairly Psyduck looking eyes. I do feel like actually those are a bit too far apart, speaking of all that moving things apart. So we'll bring them in on the front a bit, and they're probably a bit too small as well, so we'll scale them up, make them look a bit closer. Probably scale up in the Z a little bit as well. And I think the outside corner needs a scaling in the Z as well. So we'll just select these vertices. We'll deselect that one in the back there. Scale up in the Z just a little bit. See how that's looking? A little bit more. There we go. So I'm just looking on this side whilst I'm scaling, and I can see that it's now looking good. Probably quite flat still, yeah. So we'll bring the middle of the eye out. There we go. Are we going to get into animating bit? I'm not planning to. I will hopefully... My aim for this session is to get the modelling and a basic texture down. I've ran out of time for what I had time for the first two streams to get the texturing done. So I'm thinking this is a much simpler character. It's basically just flat colours anyway. The eyes need a little bit of detail, and the nose needs a little bit, like the beak needs a little bit of detail. Other than that, that's pretty much it. So we should be able to get some basic colours down to make him look more like Psyduck. Now, the last thing to his head is the little bit of hair that he's got on the back here. We can create a cylinder, and we'll bring it down to something like 8. Radius needs to be much smaller. Depth as well. And then radius again. Hold down shift to slow it down. I'll bring it out in the X so I can actually see it. And I mean, looking at the size, it's really hard to judge the size because there's nothing that we've made so far that is particularly the same size. And it's a different, like, it looks really big in this one, and then sort of smaller in the other images that we've got here. Quite small in this one. Like, the difference in size is quite dramatic. So we'll just sort of do what feels right. So Alt S, give it a little bit more thickness. Probably about there. Give it a bit of length as well. About there looks fine. And we've got n-gons on the... I don't like n-gons, so I just don't use them. So get rid of the faces on each end. And we can, using edges, create a face there, create a face there, create a edge loop in the middle, scale it in, and then we got 2 more faces up here that we can create. That's a fairly simple pattern for the top. As I stream more Domingos, I might end up doing animation streams. It's not a field I'm particularly confident in, but I can definitely do some simple stuff, and obviously get a rig going. That's the basic sort of thing that people would be looking for anyway. I mean, yeah, for Pokemon characters, I probably wouldn't even use the not Make Human, the Rigify rig. It seems too complex for the simple cartoon characters, but it's also a good base and it gives you all the controls really easily, so maybe we could try it out and see what works. But that would be more of a... Once I've been streaming for a few more months and I'm a bit more comfortable working whilst streaming, then yeah, that's something I could definitely look into. Now the shape isn't consistent all the way down. It does taper at the bottom, and it sort of seems to have a little spot near the top where it sort of gets its final thickness. So something like that. That looks fine. And I'll give it a little bit of curve as well. So we'll select that middle part and bring it out in the Y. Maybe rotate that bit. Rotate this bit that way, this bit that way. Something like that. Now he does have the 3 hairs, so we'll Shift D, duplicate. The 2 side hairs always seem to be a little bit smaller. So we'll scale it down, duplicate again, rotate, and then I've got them all sort of connecting at this one little point here. And we'll come down, we'll rotate it back and position. I can even do an Alt G just to get it directly in the middle. And it seems to be based on this image. It does definitely seem to be further back on the head rather than towards the front. So we'll make sure that we include that. That's awesome. Go ahead, feel free to either follow along or have your own go and do the sort of problem solving and troubleshooting yourself. That's my favourite part of modelling, is looking at a shape and going, how can I recreate that in 3D? I'm going to do a little bit of edge reinforcement on the ends of these, just by bringing an edge loop up to the end, and probably down the bottom as well, although I can't see where that's going. I'm just going to click and drag it down. And so when I shift click onto the head and hit... Oh no, I'm not going to want to do that yet, am I? Because I've got a mirror on the head. So let's just do a Control 2. So it's quite nice and smooth. And he's looking alright. There's a Psyduck head. And as soon as you get those 3 little hairs in, you're going to go, oh yeah, no, that's Psyduck. Psyduck, yeah, how can it not be? Cool. So let's move on to the body. Now before we do, just need to blow my nose, so just give me a second, I shall mute. All good. I can breathe now. So, with the body, I'm going to Alt-G again with that, and then bring it down in the Z. And the body is definitely bigger than the head. It's probably 1.5 heads, maybe a bit more, maybe almost 2 heads. So we could even bring up the bottom of the head, which actually doesn't end for Psyduck. It doesn't really end at the bottom of this circle. It actually, like you can see here, it's most of the circle, and then it gets cut off by the body. It's fairly hard to actually see that other than in this image here. So that's what I've been sort of working off. So if this head is roughly a blender unit in height, so if we put the top of it at that blender unit, and then that bottom is expected to be cut off. So this ball here is almost 2 blender units, probably could be a little bit bigger in height. And then we just want to get the shape. Now, I will probably just select this top bit and delete, and then do some smooths on that top section there. Bring it in. So this is where it's going to connect. And we want that to be fairly consistent with the reference. That looks about right to me. Obviously this is all weird shape and not what Psyduck looks like at all. So I'll probably bring everything in on the Y a little bit. And slide up a bit. Probably make him a little bit shorter actually. Yeah, something about there. He's got quite a... I don't know how to explain the shape. So this is a good example of the shape. He's very round, but he's also a bit more bulbous sort of towards the middle, but stays very round around the bottom. So you want to sort of make sure we get that shape. Something like this. Probably going to need... just hid that one, so we'll slide that up. It's a very round boy, and it's a difference. The difference is between making a ball that's supposed to be a duck and making a weird rounded body for a duck. Now, okay, so we need to move this out of the way for starters. We're going to get the mirroring and stuff going. So we'll do that by joining with the head. So we'll select the body first in object mode, then select the head, Control J. So now it's mirrored and subdivided all together. And we want to select the bottom part of the head. And so that's sort of the same part of the head that was, or that bottom part of the mesh is the same as the top part that I just removed, so these vertices are all the same. I just sort of know that by eyeballing it. I don't know. One of those weird things. I might smooth it out a bit. Scale in. Might even bring the body back. There we go. And then I'm going to bridge, so I'll go F3 and then bridge. And that has gone weird. Why have we done triangles? I have literally never seen it do triangles before. Ah, what's going on at the front here? Ah, that's why. Okay, so we bring those in on the X to where the mirror should be clipping. There we go. So it's trying to align them and it wasn't having any luck. It's done triangles again, but Triangles look fine. Oh, we've got a difference. Ah, because I added an edge loop to the head, didn't I? Of course. Okay, in that case, we need to add an edge loop to the body. And it was added to the head. Here. I can just sort of see where it would go best. Beautiful, okay. So now when we go to bridge, it's going to do it perfectly. No triangles, hooray! Nothing went wrong, everything's fine. Nobody saw anything. I'm not streaming this, am I? I am? Oh my. Everyone's going to see that mistake. It's okay, don't worry. I figured it out in the end.
What mistake? What do you mean?
Oh, there was an edge loop that I forgot to add in. It's fine. It was a little joke. Ha ha ha. That's my wife being exasperated in the background.
Love you.
So shade smooth. Now he's got a bit of a lumpiness to the body, so we might... look, we're just going to go smooth vertices a bunch of times. Because now he's not as lumpy. And we can just use proportional editing with a big radius to sort of get a Psyduck body shape a bit more back. Something like this. Yeah. Could be rounder, but he looks like he's in the down of a step there, so I'm not going to go quite that round. But he is quite a round boy. And then from the front, what's his silhouette like? Do we have any good front silhouettes? Yeah. So his body sticks out further than his head in this view here. Now this is definitely a perspective view. So if I was to do that here, his head sticks out about the same as his body. So that's something to sort of be aware of, that you don't have to go too crazy and it will be right. So about there. Does that look right? Could be a bit more. He is a chonker. Probably about there. Now the poles, the tripoles here that are sort of messing up the shape of things. Scale them in a little bit. Scale them out a little bit. I'm not sure. They're not too distracting, but I do notice them. Oh well. Let us continue on. Now, did I... You know, that beak is looking very flat to me. And I want it to be rounder at the front end. I think even something like that. And possibly bring that out a bit. Psyduck. I think if I select that vertex and that vertex with proportional and scale, that might... I think I'm going to lower that, scale it up a little bit. You know, that's a really good question. It seems to be... So in this one it looks like it's sticking out forwards quite a bit. In this one it's sort of in line with where I see his head tilt, but maybe if you sort of have his head tilt a bit further back, then maybe it is tilting down. In this one it's completely curved and pointing up to the sky. He's a cartoon character, so I mean, yeah, it's definitely pointing down, isn't it? So let's make sure we do that. Maybe that's why I'm having issues with the actual shape. Although that's actually looking fine from the front. I know I've just made that quite a bit longer, so I need to shorten. We'll just do that by moving vertices and turning off proportional, because I'm quite happy with the shape that we've got. Just not the whole thing. So if we select this, and now to incorporate the rotation without stuffing up too much other stuff, what I'm going to do, select all those vertices. I'm not going to select the ones where it's sort of connecting with the head. I'm just going to rotate and then bring it down like that. About there. That's looking better. It is, and that's where you sort of got to decide where you draw the line between when you're animating, and making a character that would potentially be animated. How much of that do I incorporate? How much of it do I make possible? It's very tricky. Not an easy thing to be. Yeah. I mean, I could even go further down. I'm not sure, because this angle is very inconsistent between each reference. Some of them it's more. This one looks like it's not very. I know we can see lots of it, but it's his head is definitely tilting down and to the side, because the things on the back of his head are right up on the top. But then the person that drew this might have interpreted those thingies to be further up than they are. It's all very much a matter of interpretation. Can I come back? I can't just... Ooh. Go away. So we'll do a little bit more. I think I want the angle to be a little bit steeper. Now that we've looked at it and had a discussion. Psyduck. Yeah. That looks fine to me. Just sort of looking at this area here, making sure that looks fine. I might make it a bit narrower. So I'll do that with proportional, I think. With a low amount of proportional, just to bring the sides just in. Oh, just X. I'll get the feeling I've moved stuff a bit off. So let's select these. Yeah, it does a bit. Smooth that a little bit. Trying to see where that... I mean, the center line is all wiggly. I might bring the corner up a little bit there. I might scale those in the Z a bit. Actually, that's looking almost better. Yeah, it was that top bit there that was making it look a bit out of shape. Another loop to the front. No. It'll start being not as controllable as it is right now if I do decide to make any more changes. I've already got some weird stuff going on here that needs to be fixed. There we go. Yeah. It can be tricky to find the bit that needs to be changed. And it wasn't that it was bent, it was that this little bit here was just making it look odd. Cool. Anyway. Where are we? Body. We've done the body. That shape's I mean, it's a Psyduck body. It's just a round blob. There's really not much to it. I mean, we could make him, yeah, in some of these he's, it's not even, I don't even have all the references that I saw, but in some of them if he's jumping, then his body does get quite thin. So I don't want to make a really round body. Also don't want to make a bad looking body, but let's do the feet. Okay. That's an egg. Looks like another foot on the egg. So we'll do the foot from the top view. We'll add in a plane and just move it over to the side. And he's got 3 toes that stick out. It's a very tricky shape. Whenever you get in with a 3, it can be frustrating, I think is the word. About that sort of size. So if we do this, you've almost got what you want. We've got the 3 not too steep angles there. And then if you bring an edge loop sort of close, scale it out a little bit, do this, scale it out a little bit, maybe even just scale the bottom in a bit, bring these out in the Y, bring this out in the Y. You've got a fairly rounded looking foot. It looks about right. The trouble is, as soon as you add in smoothing. So let's try some solutions. I'm not completely sold on the solutions I used the first time, so let's have a little look. I think if I do a bevel here, it will sharpen those. If I do a bevel here, small one, it will sharpen those, and then we'll do an edge loop on either of these, and that will keep that sharp. So if I do, I mean, I can even do a Control 2 now. So that's keeping the shape fairly well. I should probably bring out the middle toe to be further out, because it looks like that. Just a little bit, like that. Foot's quite long. Is it that long? Yeah, no, that proportion looks about right. I think it needs to be a little bit skinnier though. Yeah, that's better. Okay. So now I want to extrude, and I want to have, let's have a look at some of the other references for placement of the foot. So here you can see it's got a little bit of thickness to the toes, and it's a fairly soft shape that sort of goes up to where the leg would be. I don't think he's actually got legs, but it's not much good reference in terms of this part of his body. So what I was thinking is we rotate this forwards, and I think if I add in an edge loop around here, I actually want to use it to round things out a bit. Do an Alt S for this kind of scaling. That will just soften the foot. Now I don't think the back of the foot actually comes up that far, so we'll move this down a little bit in the Z. We'll rotate this part of the foot to be fairly flat, bring it down a little bit more, and then the what we'll call the leg will extrude out from this area here, which we can then soften with some smooths. Maybe even bring these ones forwards as well. But I want to keep this in line with the shape of things. Yeah, about there. Now I don't need. I'm not. I'm not worried about the animatability of the foot right now. I would definitely do this differently, and I will do it differently for the hands. But I'm going to cheat right now, and I'm going to merge these two and merge these two. And I would actually see what happens if I do this. Yeah, that's making the back of the foot rounder. Okay, I'm going to merge. We're going to leave some triangles in some spots that I don't necessarily like. But it's going to make the topology quite a bit simpler. So if I was animating, I'd be worried about having these triangles in these areas. What I would do is I'd have a row of edge loops somewhere in the model where I'm reducing the polygons in a way that doesn't create any triangles. Because when you try to move a subdivided model with triangles in it, the flexing makes everything look really weird. You can make triangles look fine in subdivision, but as soon as you try to animate, the subdivision sort of goes a bit wild. Now we also have these going along the edge of the foot, and that doesn't look right to me. Let's enter. I'll just do all these manually. There's not many. So a little bit of sharpness at the front is fine. Let's see what happens if we do that. Yeah, that's fine. Go a little bit further forward. Not even do that. Yeah, it's much flatter on the top of the foot now. Cool. We'll do these on the bottom as well, just for consistency. Okay. So really what we've ended up doing is having a just beveling the ends of these basically to make it look how we want it to look. I'll bring these up a little bit. Nice rounded foot. Yeah. Cool. So then I know I need only 2 polygons on the bottom of the body to connect to, which makes things a bit easier. And if we do that and make it more central and bring it down quite a bit because there doesn't need to be much to it. That looks about right. So we will select the foot, select the body, Control J. So now it's all part of the same object. And I don't want to cross the middle there, so I'm going to scale it down a bit. He does have quite big feet for his body, so we'll make sure to incorporate that. The question also becomes, do I want to connect it to the body or not? Because he's definitely got his duck feet and legs, and then the feathery body around it is. I'd say the orange part of him is feathers, and then the tan part is more skin. So to keep that separate, it might actually, rather than joining everything together, it might just be easier to have them as separate models. Do we have a side reference? His foot would probably connect pretty much in the middle, so that should be fine placement. As we've got there, Do they look too big? I think they do a little bit. So we'll just scale down a little bit. About there. Yeah, that looks fine to me. Now I'll make sure the top of that is still concealed under there, and it is. So that looks fine. So last on the list is the arms. And then we'll chuck a couple of colours on him. Make him look beautiful. Okay. So the hands are a very similar problem to the feet, which I want to address first. So we will add in a plane, just because the shape is simpler. And then we can extrude up, and once we've got the shape in place. Again, it's 3 points. We'll do it sideways this time. So we've got 3 little points. They're not very sharp, the angles. Is there any good? And there's a look. So it's sort of pointy-outy in the middle, and then a bit flatter on the angles for these two. So something like this. And then the hand comes in a little bit. We sort of go about there. Maybe a little bit less. And then it starts to come out some more. So that's the bare minimum to get the shape. Again, we're going to end up with can't bevel a point. We'll bevel the edge here. So beveling just an edge gets you a triangle like that at the end. Not sure if I can bevel an edge on the end. No, you can't. Okay, so we can. Because of the triangle. Okay. Interesting. We've created some n-gons as well. So if we did a cut from there to there, we've actually got a quad here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bring that out a bit. Bring that one down a bit. It's a bit less wild. Bring this. Oh. Okay, bring this edge. Oh my god, select the whole thing. Bring this edge up so that those angles aren't too extreme. And that's not too bad. What we can then do, let's fix this topology and then we'll be happy. So we've got another exactly the same situation over here. So we'll just move those so they're a more workable situation. And then what I'm thinking is, because this is going to want reinforcement as well, so if I bevel that, we've suddenly got another triangle. So if we cut here, and cut here, and then cut here, hit enter, we've got some triangles that do a couple of different things to fix. Trying to think of. I don't want to add edges to this edge here. I've already got 5, so that's going to be 10 if I extrude. And that's more than I want. So what I might just do is add in a little edge loop there. And then... so that's fixed those two, but not that one. Okay. Not as easy a fix as I was hoping. Let's leave those triangles as they are and not think too hard about it. Pretend they're not there, okay? There's no triangles. I don't know what you're talking about. Now, obviously the hand is not square. I would probably make the middle finger a bit thicker. And I'll turn on proportional and scale in the Z. Makes that proportional quite big. Enough to encompass the whole. Most of the mesh, at least. And we want the tips to be small, because obviously the fingers come to a point. So we'll do a couple of scales and we'll get there. That's fine. And probably the in between the fingers should be scaled down a bit as well. Not all the way, but a decent amount to create that sort of shape. Although I do think this all should come out a bit further. Be more pointy. There we go. So let's just double check. Shade smooth. Yeah, the triangles are making things go a bit wacky. What is happening on the back here? So we delete these faces. I mean, what we could do is do some proper edge reduction, which is not the worst idea. And we'll delete these vertices, and then we'll delete these vertices, and then we'll go. Okay, so we've got 3 vertices can be reduced into 1. Going in this direction, so from right to left. So we'll shift D of this vertice here, and then we've got, instead of having 3 vertices coming down, we've got just 1, and then we can duplicate that movement on the other side as well. So I'll just do that. I probably don't want to come out that far. We'll select this new vertice, 1, 2, and 3. And I know I've got the correct vertice here because I've got a solid orange line along here. And then F. We've got 1, 2, 3 there, 1, 2, 3 there. So that will leave us with another triangle. Whether we like it or not. Isn't that fun? So we'll duplicate these vertices. So let's just, it helps to have what you think might be the wrong thing in place, just so you can see what it's doing. Because then we've actually got 4 vertices there, so we can just possibly extrude those down, and then it not be an issue. So if we extrude these and then scale on the Y, spread out. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's been reduced there, and then that's probably going to create some weird looking geometry. Let's have a look. Once it's actually filled in, it can actually look fine. You'd think a simple little 3-pronged hand would be less hassle than this, but it's not. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 polygons. We want to reduce that. So we've got 12 vertices. I want to reduce that possibly by down to 8, which I think will be achieved by doing this, moving that back down here, and doing this. Yeah. So then we want to probably scale out on the Y here and bring back on the X and bring out more in the Y actually, like that, which this part of the hand is not going to like, but that's what the smooth function's for. That bit up, and we can bring that bit up. Yeah, that's alright. Beautiful. Okay. So now that I've got 8 vertices, I know I can connect that to the body without too much hassle. Because it's basically 3 polygons which we can work with. So if we come to the body now, so we want to create an arm. We want to create a shoulder. So we know we want 3 polygons. And if we look at Psyduck, his references are his arm pretty much coming off almost the top of here. I don't think I want to go quite that high, because then he's got a little arm there. There's a gap, and then the arm starts here. It starts about there, so a little bit of a gap there. So I feel like if I take this edge loop, edge slide it down, and then add in another edge loop, edge slide it up, then we got that little gap. And if we take, say, these 3 polygons here and extrude them out, we'll get the start of a shoulder. Now the fun thing with arms is the bit that you extrude out initially is not where the arm goes. The arm actually attaches here, underneath. And that gives us a shoulder joint, which is actually a very sneaky and quick and easy way to get it. And even sneakier will be to reshape it a little bit, bring those down to the Z, possibly in, bring these corners out in X a little bit, so I'm almost creating a circle there. Now knowing that the circle that I'm aiming for has 8 vertices, I can actually add in a circle, change the vertices to 8, bring it out in the X, and now when you move it on this location here, it doesn't actually get affected by the clipping yet, which is really handy. Radius needs to be much less, probably even less than that, something like that. Let's have a look, bring it into place, a little bit smaller, and then we can alt select each of these edge loops, F3 bridge. Now it kind of looks like there's triangles. I'm pretty sure there's not. No, there's not. It's just a bit of rotation. So if from the view, if I just rotate a little bit, we can get pretty close to an aligned arm, and then we can create a very nice circular arm coming down through here. His arms are in the shape inconsistent. Based on this reference, it's sort of, he's got a little bit of a shoulder, and then it all just sort of tapers down. And I think I will have the arms sticking out. Sort of an A pose. For Psyduck, it's probably a T pose, because it's a lot of effort to get your arms up when you're a Psyduck. So something like this. And if we extrude out, we can sort of get an idea of how big the arms are currently. The length is tricky. It definitely comes out and sort of stops below the halfway line, that's for sure. So if that's the whole thing, so this row of vertices is probably a little bit higher than the halfway line. So if we come, bring the arm up a little bit there. The arm's looking very skinny to me. So I'll bring that up to actually match that width. That looks a bit too fat. That's pretty close. Definitely need to do some shaping of the shoulder. Bring those vertices up. Bring these ones in. Probably need to bring these ones more towards the middle. Just by scaling a little bit. That looks fine. Although these two vertices here look like they should be brought up. Yeah. That's starting to get there. The arm is definitely intersecting a little bit too much. Probably bring the angle up a little bit. I don't mind a little bit of intersection, but that seemed like too much. Something like that. That's starting to look right. And then it will taper down into the hand. So we'll bring the hand in, and we need to join it to this object. So we'll select the hand, then the duck, and then the Control J to join. Select all those vertices. Rotate. Maybe scale up a little bit. Oh no. Scale down in the Y quite a lot. We might even scale. Let's not scale because I can't get a good angle. But we'll go into here. We'll start getting these vertices to line up. Beautiful. Bridge edge loops. And now this one we can definitely shrink down. We do a shift N to fix those normals. And we need to make that look like it's tapers down into one thing, not tapers down into a separate thing. Now to do that, I might just remove this edge loop. And I just remove the really square edge loop. If I can. If that's not going to break oh, that has broken it very badly. Okay. So we'll edge slide this guy back up. Now I feel like it needs to be slightly thicker on the Z, without being too much thicker on the Z. It's a bit better. The hands, and they're currently looking like separate objects, and they're not supposed to. This middle section needs to be brought into line. Okay, so let's select these. Okay. So let's get the shape correct here. Something like that. We'll also shrink that down quite a bit. And then get that sort of angle to match. Much better. There we go. I knew it was all going to work out in the end. Psyduck! He's pretty much done. I could spend a lot of time being finicky about various parts. I'm not going to. Because we've got a bit of time now, and I want to chuck some colours on and see how he looks. I'm not the best teacher for rigging. I can show you how to get Rigify to line up with a model and get that connected to the model. But I can't show you how to actually build a rig, because I don't really know. I know the very basics. And like even when I need to make a basic IK leg or arm or whatever, I always end up going back to a tutorial myself. Because it's not very intuitive. You have to do things backwards and out of order, and you have to make sure the settings are perfectly right, and that's just not how I can work. Yeah, so it's a skill that requires more learning than I have put into in order to be able to teach it, at least. Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Domingo. Now let's... Is that... Oh yeah, these... Okay, we'll join those. They're separate objects, but they don't need to be separate objects in Blender. This one is not symmetrical. And I like it not being symmetrical. I think I'm going to leave it that way, so I'm not going to... Yeah, this is Blender. In the reference here is what's called PureRef. It's a different program. And I've just got that set to be on top, so you can see what references I'm using. I'm only using a few, these ones here. So, in order to colour him in, we're going to want to do some seams. Now, if you want to add more detail to the painting of the textures, then this would be how you do it. I'm not necessarily going to need that much detail, but it helps to have, especially like parts where the eyes were I'm going to paint and the beak. It helps to have them unwrapped correctly with the rest of it, and it looks nice and all that sort of stuff. So let's just do that. So we select a ring of edges where you want the thing to be, a seam to be, sorry. And I'm currently, so it's important to know that if you have your mirror applied at this point, then you'll have to do all of the seams possibly twice. Some of them you only have to do once, but possibly twice. So I like to do the seams now and then apply my mirror. And then if I wanted to model in some slight changes on the left and right, asymmetry, then I could do that at that point. It is very much a what the model needs, so that might not be the... I want mark sharp. I want mark seam. So then it goes red. Yeah, so that process may or may not work for your model. It's just worth thinking about how much detail you're going into. For this model, it's perfectly fine to do it this way. So I've got a seam around the tube of the arm, and I'm hoping to get a seam all the way around. And we'll separate the hands out. Talia, welcome. Thanks for joining. So we finished making the model. He looks pretty cute and good and round. Now for the hands, typically you would probably have a edge loop running around the middle of everything anyway. So that's a really good way to have, a really good place to have an edge loop, sorry, not an edge loop, a seam. We don't have that luxury in this model, so I'm just going to mark a seam on the bottom. And then that will give us the hands. We do want to mark a seam down the side here. And then I don't want most of that selected. So I'll go to vertice, just middle click with my border select, and then Control E, mark seam. Beautiful. So now we've got the front and back separated of the body. Depending on the head, it changes on what you might do with it. For this situation where I know I only really want the eyes, I almost am not going to unwrap the head, but I know that I want to unwrap it fairly properly, so we'll do that. Welcome to the world of the awake, Talia. Glad you could make it. And I think I want a seam, a couple of edges. Oh, that's edge line. Mark seam. A couple of edges in, and that allows the face to unfold. Bit weird to think about when you think about it, but just don't, and you'll be fine. Select that ring there, and mark seam. And we'll probably select the seam along the middle, or the edge row along the middle there, mark a seam there. And we'll do a similar thing with the foot. So this, with the foot, we did add an edge loop around the middle of it. So we can mark a seam there. And honestly, that will be plenty for the foot. We could do more with where the foot connects and all that, but we don't need to. And then just lastly, these little bits of hair. We'll select those circles, mark seams. And I've selected some other stuff on that one. Okay, mark seam. And we would want the sides, I believe. Let me see. Yeah, mark seam there. Mark seam there. We'll just do one for each of these. And one. There we go. Mark seam. Okay. I think that's everything. So now we can add, with the mirror, we can apply the mirror. And that means we can actually join these two objects now. And everything looks good. And if we select everything, hit U and unwrap. And I like to increase the margin just a little bit. Now we'll create another vertical split here. We'll have the model visible here. I think we're going to do most of the painting in the image editor, UV editor here. So we select all that. So that shows us the UVs of everything. Now, because we marked the seams before we mirrored, we've got seams on both sides. And that's looking pretty good to me. We can add in an image here, and we can do a... I like to do the color grid. Probably 2048 by 2048. And just name it grid. So this will generate an image, different colors and letters and numbers and stuff. And when you go over here into texture view and actually add the texture to the model, the grid. There we go. This helps you to check any distortion. So we've got numbers, and then we've got symbols as well. So that's why we've got C colon. So you can tell if these letters were all distorted, then you'd know there was an issue with the map or the unwrap. So you can see sort of in the back of the arm here, it's got a little bit wonky. That's the only real spot that I'm seeing any issues. So I'm just going to leave well alone, because it's all going to be pretty much flat shaded anyway. Cool. So now let's make a new image. Go 2048. We'll turn off the color grid. Make it white. Hit OK. And then we'll make that the texture on the model as well. And then I'm sure there was a function for this in Blender, but I've forgotten how to do it. Export UV layout, there we go. Okay. Let's put it on my desktop in here with Psyduck. And we will call it Psyduck UVs. Now, if you wanted to take that into a separate program, that's how you would do it. We're going to do it in Blender, so we're actually not going to need that exported UV layout. And I think we're just going to, can we do, oh, that's the wrong button. UV, I want to go to image editor. Now I can open the Psyduck UVs here, and that's it's given it a transparent black background. So what that's done is, if we open it in here, is that going to work? Not really. You can kind of see, if you zoom in, it's got the UVs on there, but it's done it in a way that's not helpful. Hi there, Brickmark. So we're not going to worry about that. Anyway, back to here. So what we can do is go down here. There was a couple of functions that I haven't used in a while that I'm forgetting where they are. Because the that's right, they split UEs and image editing, didn't they? So you can't do it the way you used to. That's frustrating. No. Yeah, it doesn't even show you the UVs in Blender. I don't think there was a layer. There's no layers for images in Blender, I'm pretty sure. I'm just trying to see if I can demonstrate in a way that's more visible, I guess. But that's not proving to be an easy way to do things. So we'll just go here. We do want to texture paint. Here we go, paint mode. Ah, it shows the UVs in paint mode. Of course. Should have just gone there straight away. Okay. So that's showing us where all the islands are. And you can tell by some of them what they are, just by looking at them. Just one moment, I just need to blow my nose again. Yeah, so you can tell by looking at certain islands exactly what they are. And so I know the one with two big holes in it, where the eyes would go, is obviously the head. These weird flipper looking ones, they're probably the flippers on his feet. I suspect these ones would be his hands. And then we've got pieces that are probably the body, back of the head. Then we've got arms. Not too sure what these two bits would be. Oh, the beak. Thank you, Brickmark. I agree with you. He's quite a cute Pokemon. Can I go to object mode here? No, okay. We have to be in edit mode to see the UVs. That's fine. So we want to pick a color. Can I pick from another piece of software? No, I can't. Okay, that's fine. We will we'll be sneaky. We'll actually open an image from Psyduck. We will go to I like a couple of, should we go more muted or more saturated? I think saturated actually will look quite good. I think
Saturated.
yeah, saturated. This one is not quite as saturated as that one, so we'll go with this one. Now I'm just using it to pick the colours. So we'll pick that orange. And we will pick that beak colour. And then we can go back to the correct image. And paint onto it. So with the paintbrush, I think we just got text draw. Yeah, that's fine. So if I draw on the face, that you can see, oh, he's drawn on all over his face. I think F should be brush size, which it is. And I'm just going to paint the whole thing. Oh, come on, you can do it. Load, there we go. Paint the whole thing that orange colour. And then we can go in and fix up the details. There we go. Very orange all over. Make sure I get any spots that I missed. Beautiful. So I know the eyes is this one here. And I want to change, so I want to change to a white. And it's not that. There we go. Okay, that's white. F to make the brush smaller, because I don't need it that big anymore. Probably around here. It's a very soft brush. Can I... No. That curve. I want to adjust that curve. Fall off. Have it flat, please. Thank you. There we go. So now I want to check that eye. Might just go into object mode. Yeah, so just the eyeball part is white and not the bit around that would be the eyelid, but he doesn't really have eyelids. So that's good. So we go back to edit mode, find the other eye. It's this shape here. I know it is because I made the model. I just spent the last hour and a half making the model, so I know what the shapes are. Now the bill and the feet need to be different colours as well. So we'll click that little rotate button there and switch the colours. I'll make my brush a bit bigger. Okay. Now that looks a bit too close, so now that I've got all the colours actually on the canvas, I can pick from them. So I'll just get that orange to be like that. I like to have a decent gap of the colours between each island, because sometimes it overlaps and it's really, really hard to fix. Because the computers try to fix things and make it as smooth as possible, and it doesn't always get it correct. So I like to give it the room to not screw everything up for me. And that's white. And that pink again. There we go. Okay. So we got the base colours down. So he's already looking much more like Psyduck. Ready to do the black on the hairs. And then the pupils and the little bits on the nose. So, what bits are the hairs? I think it's these three little bits here. We'll see what happens when we colour them in. Yep, I just saw that one change there. So this one's definitely correct. There we go, so that one's gone black. That one's gone black. And then these three circles here, those are actually the ends. So if I wanted to have more detail, say running, like drawing some strokes of like hair up and down, then I could do that on the canvas here. And that's why we unwrap things, to paint extra details in. We don't necessarily unwrap things to do paint in block colours, but it's a useful skill to make sure that you can do. And I want to make sure that's coloured in properly. Beautiful. So there we got three little black doodles on the back of there. And we want to pick an iris. Now he's got very, very small dots for his eyes. So try something like that. Can I see where that is? Wow, that's tiny here. No, not that small. A bit bigger. Might go smaller than that. About there. But that's going the wrong way. Try and get him to be almost looking forwards. And then this one probably on this side. No, on this side as well. Good, make him cross-eyed. That looks about right. Yeah. Cool. The further apart, the better. Yes. He is very derpy. I spent about 20 minutes going through reference images earlier. And yeah, he is a very derpy boy. He's a chunky and a derpy boy. Now, I want to get the little do thingies here in. I'm not going to draw them as black lines. I'm going to draw them as darker versions of the colour that's there. I'll just bring this down. Maybe even not that dark. Let's try this. My brush size is probably good. Oh, that's huge. Okay. Bring that size down. Where are we? Radius of 6 pixels. Let's try 4. Now this is a point where I'm actually using Blender's built-in texture paint mode would be helpful. We can also do things like, if we're clever, stroke. Whoop. Options, was there? I'm sure there was. If I was clever and could find the setting. Might even be under the properties panel here. Tool. Symmetry, here we go. X mirror. So now, if I draw on, it goes on both sides. Hooray! So So get rid of that properties panel, shrink that down, and we'll try to find the right sort of spot for these little doohickeys. Sort of like that. Yeah. They're his nostrils. I think that's going to do it. Perfect. He's very shiny. Oh, I didn't paint the underside of the feet, so he's got orange. He got orange feet. That's fine. We'll fix that. Where is the underside of your feet? Ah, there, in the middle. Let's just pick that colour. Okay. And then make a nice, decent sized brush. There we go. Just fix up this area here where it's almost connecting. Just there. Perfect. Just like that. And honestly, that's all he really needs. He doesn't need much more than that. Is he a shiny boy or is he a not so shiny boy? He's a little bit shiny, I think. I'm not going to get too much into doing any more maps or anything like that to get the colours looking perfect. But I think that will do. We'll try a rendered mode view. Can we do... We can do this one. You know, I deliberated with the beak for a long time, and it depends on the reference you're looking at. These two are pretty much the same angle, and it's wider and shorter in this one, and longer and thinner in this one. In this one, obviously, it's being animated, but his beak curves up and does other things. So, I mean, it's an artist's interpretation of what it might look like. From most angles, when you're in perspective view, the beak looks fine. If you go to like a side view that's orthographic, it does look quite long. But it doesn't, when you've got it the foreshortening like this, if the beak was shorter, it wouldn't match like these references here. So, I mean, it's pick and choose which reference you want to match to and do that. And I'm happy with where he's at now. I'm not going to do any more rendering or anything like that. So we're just shy of the 2-hour mark, so that's really good. I'm happy with that. There was a little bit of troubleshooting in the middle there, but that's fine. We got there in the end. He's got fully coloured feet and beak, and little dots in his eyes. Yeah, it looks quite cute. Quite happy to add that to my little crew of Pokemon that I'm building. Next week, don't have a specific Pokemon planned. Possibly going to do Squirtle or Charmander. Because I do want to get the 3 starters done from the Gen 1 games. And then it's pretty much up in the air for any Pokemon that anybody might want to be made. After I've done the starters, I probably want to do something like, if we're in Gen 1, like Hitmonchan or Hitmonlee, something a bit more humanoid. Because these starters, and even Psyduck, they're very short, they're very stocky. They don't have much legs. Some of them have arms, but not all of them. And I can't see myself enjoying putting a rig onto them and trying to get it to work, because that would be a lot of moving around that's just a bit tricky, and I would be very pedantic about trying to get it to look right. So I'm not gonna submit myself to that. Quite happy to just keep doing modelling tutorials for a while anyway, so I'm not worried about animation quite yet. But yeah, for now, that will be where we leave it. That's a Psyduck, how you make a Psyduck, texture him and model him and all that sort of stuff. If you want to hit subscribe if you haven't already, that would be great. I will be streaming Minecraft on my Twitch channel every Friday. So currently it's Saturday evening for me. So Friday was yesterday. I was doing some videos on YouTube on my Mollytron channel, but I just wasn't enjoying editing. It was killing me. So I decided to move to streaming Minecraft on Twitch once a week. So we'll do Minecraft is Fridays on Twitch, and then 3D modeling characters, currently Pokemon, is Saturday evening for me on YouTube. And I'm quite happy with that situation. That's a manageable amount of work for me to do, and I can commit to that for quite a while, I think. So no worries, thanks for tuning in if you had. I will see you next time I am streaming on whatever platform and whatever stream you'd like to tune into.